Jonathan Hickman. He's known for charts, graphs, diagrams, along with his penchant for telling large-scale, long-form stories in superhero comics. Hickman came from a background in advertising and design, but decided he wanted to make comics instead. So he started pitching to publishers or creating his own independent stories like Nightly News. In 2009, he caught Marvel's eye and got his first mainstream gig writing Secret Warriors with Brian Michael Bendis. That same year, he was given writing duties for Marvel's First Family. According to Hickman, he wasn't even a big fan of FF before getting the job. He ended up doing his homework and put together a run that took a bit from every era of the FF. The FF Dark Reign series is his first run with those characters, but outside of the first appearance of the Council of Reeds, it's not required to understand this run. His actual run starts with FF 570 with artist Dale Eaglesham, colorist Paul Mounts, and letterer Russ Wooten. Visually, this run is heavily rooted in Jack Kirby's style, from the way the characters are drawn to the use of Kirby Crackle and exploring cosmic concepts. It pulls from other runs like Kirby and Lee and Byrne. There are influences from modern runs, like Reed's plan to solve everything from McDuffie and Pelletier's stories, with heavy influences from the Millar and Hitch run, especially with the use of the New Defenders, Crispy Galactus, and New World. The artists for the main FF series include Dale Eaglesham, Steve Epting, and Nick Dragotta. Even though Hickman is known for all these Marvel stories, he has his own books as well.
Well, no one retires at Marvel or DC, and so it's really dumb not to own your own stuff. And the reason why I keep doing my own stuff and image books and whatnot is I don't want to be a sad story of a guy who thought he was going to get to write Silver Surfer for 30 years or something like that. It breaks my heart when I hear those stories, but nowadays there isn't really much of an excuse. We know all the bad stories.
This run moves a small army of supporting characters into the Baxter Building and gives them all page time. Like Franklin Richards' friends, Leech and Artie, a clone son of the wizard named Bentley 23 plays a role. There's Alex Power from Power Pack and Dragon Man. Franklin's first meeting with Power Pack goes back to the 80s when he met them in a dream. The Moloids Turg, Mick, Kor, and Tong play a big role in the series. Ben saved them from the High Evolutionary City, so they nickname him
The Ben
as a form of respect. Big cosmic insanity mixed with the family dynamics with a heavy focus on Franklin and Valeria. Even though the cast is bigger than it's ever been, everyone gets their time to shine. Hickman is adept at balancing a massive cast but not overcrowding the story. Reed doesn't try to work alone anymore. He's no longer the main figure pushing the plot. Instead, he starts the Future Foundation to teach the next generation of great minds to help the world. There's the Council of Reeds, which features Reeds from alternate universes. While Reed is one of the greatest minds in the main universe, he feels out of his league with some of the main council members. Especially with the main three, each possessing an Infinity Gauntlet while traversing different universes capturing Doctor Dooms. Reed's relationship with his father Nathaniel gets a lot of emphasis in this run. Even going back to the 90s story, Sue still doesn't fully trust Nathaniel. Fatherhood plays a major role overall. The run opens with a flashback of Nathaniel telling Reed that being afraid to fail is unacceptable and that he needs to try. Even though Nathaniel vanishes from Reed's life to go on his own adventures, this advice informs the way Reed raises Franklin and Valeria. Although, Reed and Sue do better than Nathaniel did. Even the villains get moments like this, like how the Wizard is a foil to Reed. Each FF run that uses the Wizard seems to have this goal of how can writers and artists make him worse. Bentley 23 was only given a number by the Wizard. He ends up going by just Bentley, becoming a better one than his father. It gets recommended often, but Hickman's run might not be the best place for new readers to start at first. He pulls from almost every character in FF's history, but as people go through this run, they'll get a crash course on each character. Rereading this run, it doesn't feel controversial. It's actually kind of a crowd pleaser, pulling from the best hits of each decade, but injecting a human element into it that was missing in some stories. It's heavy on the epic cosmic moments, but it ramps up the family aspect and fleshes out the lesser known characters. This run also finally reunites Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, and they haven't really been together since the 80s. There's another plot where Norrin Rad is serving Big G again, who wants revenge on Malar and Hitch for frying that other Galactus. Galactus and Reed are still allies going back to the Burn Run because the Planet Eater doesn't want to consume Earth. He's willing to find an alternative by consuming New World. Sue Storm has her own storyline as ambassador for mankind to Atlantis during some peace negotiations. Emma Frost and Scott Summers represent the mutants. Namor attacks the Old Kings of Atlantis because he's Namor. The Old Kings pick Sue as their new leader, and she ends up humbling Bill Everett's son. In issue 587, the army of Annihilus, the Annihilation Wave, tries to invade the Baxter Building. Galactus also ends up consuming New World to prepare for a bigger conflict that happens later. This is the part where Hickman clears the board after using other ones as inspiration so he can go in his own direction. In the Negative Zone, Johnny, Franklin, Valeria, and a human Ben fight the invasion. Before they get overwhelmed, Johnny pushes Ben through the Negative Zone portal in one of the hardest hitting moments of the series. Johnny sacrifices himself and makes his final stand in the Negative Zone. A high point of this series is in issue 588 when artist Nick Dragotta jumps on. Johnny's headshot is removed from the cover. This issue is mostly silent, showing the characters in mourning. Reed is going to use the nullifier on Annihilus, but decides not to. Even Doom goes to Johnny's funeral. At the Baxter Building, Valeria wants revenge. It's followed by a Mark Brookstron story with Spider-Man and Franklin. Dragotta's Reed and art style in general is so strongly rooted in Kirby. Scenes like Johnny's sacrifice and the way he planned for it show the heart he brings to the story. He makes two big requests in a hologram to Reed: bring on Spider-Man to replace him, and to keep making the world better. During the Future Foundation run, the main artists are Steve Epting, Juan Bobillo, and Nick Dragotta with some guest pencilers. Future Foundation brings Spidey onto the team as requested by Johnny. Amazing Spider-Man number 657 has a pretty heartfelt scene written by Dan Slott with art by Marcos Martin that shows why Johnny picked Peter as his replacement. It's not required reading to understand Future Foundation, but it's worth the price of admission. Once again, Sue designs the new Future Foundation costumes. Also, someone else joins the team, to Reed's horror. Doom joins because Valeria promised she would help fix the brain damage he got in the Malar and Hitch run. Since he's an egotistical bastard, he agrees to join. Being who he is, Doom blames Ben for not saving Johnny. The main Fantastic Four book came back near the end of 2011 with issue 600, featuring all the heroes fighting a Kree invasion and the forces of the Negative Zone led by Johnny. So, the torch was gone for about 30 seconds in this essay, but gone for a few months in the comics. Johnny did end up dying, but was brought back to life and experimented on by Annihilus. The Torch ends up teaming up with an Inhumans group called the Light Brigade, overthrowing Annihilus and stealing the Cosmic Control Rod. The early 600s arc with the Kree, Annihilation Wave, and Mad Celestial Invasion is the cosmic payoff of the Hickman run. Future Foundation number 13 to 14 is one of the high points of the series. The Future Foundation, Nathaniel Richards, Dr. Doom, Christoph Vernard, and the Alpha Reed Richards take on Mad Celestials. After Doom calls the Alpha Reed Richards a pale imitation of the main one, this one gets vaporized by Celestials before he gets to use the ultimate nullifier. What separates the main Reed from the other council members is how he isn't willing to sacrifice his family to solve everything. Throughout the run, it's the FF and the Future Foundation working together to save everyone from disaster. Doom ends up sacrificing himself to fight the Celestials, making a promise to Valeria to stay alive. By this point, Victor's mind is fully recovered, so this is peak Doom stepping up to the Celestials in one of the most memorable moments from this run. Heavy on the ego, heavy on the honor, all hope lies in Doom. While he doesn't stop the Celestials, Doom is able to delay them for the two big guns. The Celestials show up on Earth, take down Galactus, but Franklin and Valeria from the future show up to save the day. Future and current Franklin combine their powers for a moment that still doesn't feel old after a reread. Franklin resurrecting Galactus as his herald to fight the Celestials. This run follows the trend of humanizing Galactus with a conversation between Galen and Franklin in space after the fight. After the Kree Negative Zone Celestial story, the rest of Hickman's time on the FF books is filled with small and thoughtful character building moments and tying up loose ends. T'Challa becomes King of the Dead, the Foundation gets another member with Onome, and Bentley spends some quality time with his father. Fantastic Four 605 shows a future where Reed solves everything. Back in Fantastic Four 584, the future Foundation members made a serum to turn Ben back to normal for a week every year. Due to his rock state, Ben ages slowly and outlives the main FF. However, he forms a new team with Franklin and carries on the First Family's memory. Hickman's time with the First Family comes to an end with Future Foundation number 23 from 2012. Dragotta and Hickman have a heartfelt send-off of adult Franklin and Valeria saying goodbye to everyone, which is nice that a run as big as this ends its story in a subtle way. After Fantastic Four, Hickman went over to the Avengers. In late 2012, writer Matt Fraction took over 2 FF titles, the main one with artist Mark Bagley and a future Foundation-centric spin-off with Mike Allred. This is another era where Marvel ditches legacy numbering. The main run starts with a dinosaur chewing on Reed's arm like jerky. This leads to a discovery that Reed's body is breaking down on a molecular level, and the same is happening to the rest of the 4. Reed decides to find a new team to replace them before taking the FF on a trip through different universes for a cure. A cool part about the Allred book is how each replacement member is pulled from a different decade of FF. They bring in Medusa, who joined in the 70s, She-Hulk from the 80s Byrne run, Scott Lang Ant-Man from the 90s DeFalco and Ryan run is picked as the team's leader. Johnny Storm's pop star love interest Darla Deering being the newest created character, taking on the role of Miss Thing. Not to be mistaken with Sharon Ventura, who shows up again in the next run. Reed kind of pushes Scott into leading the new FF to help him deal with the grief of losing his daughter Cassie. Lang is smart, but he's not like Reed, so it adds an extra layer of drama having a leader who doesn't have all the answers. The new team was only supposed to exist while the FF were gone for 4 minutes, but plans changed. Everyone has a reason to be there, even Darla. Even though Johnny picked her last minute, she becomes an important member of the team. It's a fun lineup that shines a light on lesser-known characters and breaks up the monotony of mainstream comics. Silver Age energy that leans into the attention-grabbing gimmick covers of the time. In the main run, Reed's family doesn't appreciate him hiding the sickness from them. This run has some fun moments with the main family and focuses on building up Reed and Sue's relationship. Early on, Ben has some run-ins with the Yancey Street gang, and there's even a casual Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur cameo. One of the pieces that combines both books is the mystery of an old man, Johnny Storm. Both teams wonder if he's an imposter or from the future, where the actual reveal is that he's from an alternate universe who lost his FF to a mashup of Doctor Doom, Kang, and Annihilus. Also, this design looks like Mike Allred's Madman, and that is not a complaint. The run with Allred is a funky, heartfelt love letter to the FF and some of the weirder parts of their history. It's a thoughtful run that shows Fraction's versatility with different tones and Allred's enthusiasm for the characters. The Moloids start worshipping She-Hulk now, calling her the Gen. In general, the Foundation gets a lot of love in the Allred series, especially Turg, Mick, Kor, and Tong. Bentley is trying to do good while still scheming and causing trouble. All of the new FF members take turns teaching the Foundation students. Whenever Ben or Dr. Doom appear, there's a heavy Joe Sinnott energy in Allred's inking. Bagley's art in his stories is solid. Carl Kiesel returns to script some of the later issues too. Fraction saved the heavy lifting for the book with Allred. They're ideal collaborators because they bring a zany energy but mix it with thoughtful moments while exploring existential themes. This run gives the FF an underdog quality and focuses on some of the characters who don't get as much page time as they should. At first glance, it's a little funky. It looks like it could be a gimmicky cash grab, but it's told in an authentic way and is a solid fun take for new and old readers, and deserves another look. Writer James Robinson took over in 2014 with a new number 1, teaming up with artist Leonard Kirk, colorist Jesus Abertov, and letterer Clayton Cowles. FF mainstay Carl Kiesel returns to ink the series after scripting some stories in the last run. This is kind of the bleak era for the FF, mostly because movie rights were tied into it, which is one of the worst parts about modern mainstream comics. The thing that inspired these movies is now controlled by them. Marvel didn't want to support any Fox FF movies, so it cancelled the series with issue 645 in 2015. Kirk and Kiesel's pencils and inks bring a fluid look to the world, and the new blue costume designs stick around for another big event. Certain characters like Sharon Ventura finally return to the series, and there's a sick callback to the Marvel 2-in-1 issue where Ben befriends Sandman, who turns over a new leaf after a life of crime. It's a shame that this team was trying to tell a story while the book was shelved over a movie that destroys brain cells. Luckily, the FF weren't out of the game completely and came back for a major event. Hickman's stories all tie together. Not that they need to be required reading, but they add to the context of Secret Wars 2015 with artist Asad Rabich. It might not be the best idea to go into this story blind. This event is years of build-up from FF, the Ultimates, and Avengers, with Doctor Doom once again attaining godhood. Doom uses Molecule Man's powers because he sees himself as the best person to save the different universes from blowing up. He ends up stitching the different universes together and ruling over the new battle world while keeping Molecule Man imprisoned. A difference between this story and the original Secret Wars is that when Doom becomes a god, he won't or can't fix his own face. A few main players get trapped on a life raft in stasis, including Peter Parker, Reed Richards, and Black Panther, who remember what everything was like before Doom took over. Miles Morales plays a big role, and both spiders add some levity to an otherwise serious story. There's a group of villains and anti-heroes like Thanos, Namor, and the Maker who want to overthrow Doom. Doctor Strange is in the middle trying to help the heroes while keeping Doom at bay. Doom snuffing Strange because of this causes some of his supporters to turn against him. Not that I'm selling it, but it's one of the few events that feels earned. The art by Rabich with covers by Alex Ross, two heavy hitters, doesn't hurt either. It's not about Reed meeting the Maker, or T'Challa ruling the dead while wearing an Infinity Gauntlet, this army of Hulks going after Doom, a Rock'em Sock'em fight between the Thing and Galactus, or this scene everyone knows between Doom and Thanos. All these characters appear, but it's a story about Reed and Doom leading to their final fight. In the middle of this is Owen Reese, or Molecule Man, who has the power to fix everything. Throughout FF's history, he's been a consistently well-written character, a god who wants to be normal. During their fight, Doom admits that Reed is the best person to have control over Molecule Man's powers. There's a white flash, and later we see Reed, Owen, and Franklin restoring universes. It's shown how Reed healed Doom's face, causing Victor to turn over a new leaf. Another powerful part about Secret Wars is how it gives an ending to Doom and the FF. In a space like mainstream comics that's filled with cyclical storytelling, Secret Wars is a pretty strong ending for these characters, seeing as the main book was cancelled anyway. In the end, Reed and Sue decide to drop out of the superhero game, travel around with the Future Foundation, and raise Franklin and Valeria. Johnny and Ben didn't have an FF book to hang out in for years. Ben ended up joining the Guardians of the Galaxy, while Johnny wound up with the Inhumans. Marvel tried to drum up interest in the first family again in 2017. Writer Chip Zdarsky helmed a new version of Marvel 2-in-1 with The Thing and Human Torch. Zdarsky teamed up with artists like Jim Chung, Valerio Schitti, Ramon Perez, and Declan Shalvey to tease the return of the FF. It's not an official FF series, but it's a strong character building story, so I'm counting it. In 2018, Marvel made a pretty big show of the first family's return to comics, complete with a countdown that revealed a silhouette of the Four. Writer Dan Slott left his long run on Spider-Man to take over the book, with artist Sarah Pichelli designing the world and doing the art for the early issues. Slott wastes no time using his first arc to marry Ben and Alicia. He's working with an army of artists during this run. Even though Slott makes changes here and there, retconning things like the origin of the cosmic rays, it's clear over the 46 issues of this run who Slott's favorite character is. Ben, the idol of millions, gets a lot of page time in these stories. Whether it's the wedding, a bloody throwdown with the Hulk, or finally starting a family of his own with Alicia, Ben is the strongest part of this run. Mainstream comics can be hard for new readers to get into, but it's been pretty cool seeing new readers jump onto the recent run by Ryan North from 2022. At the end of the first issue, North talks about how, quote, "This is a comic for people who have read every Fantastic Four appearance since 1961, but it's also one that welcomes people who have never read a single Fantastic Four comic before," unquote. It's not a run that demands readers know every story. The early arcs start off with a mystery and show why the FF are relevant. So everyone starts with a blank slate. Also, they got Alex Ross to paint a cover of Doctor Doom writing a Doctor Doom T-Rex, and that's pretty rad. Hopefully, it gets new readers checking out the FF or comics in general. Well, there it is, the entire comics history of the FF broken down by decade. I've seen people comment, movie this or movie that, or the movie's going to suck. It's all well and good that people are stoked about the movie, hoping it's solid and gets people liking the FF. Other people can cover movies and TV. I love comics, so I cover comics. This goes back to my old podcast, Wit's End, where I heavily focused on comics and the history behind them, not so much the media inspired by them. The more media there is, the less people focus on the comics themselves. However, those comics are why we're here and why this stuff exists to begin with. These videos are made to be accessible to new and long-time readers. I don't cover every little plot point. I always push for reading the comics and forming an opinion directly. The goal is to get more people reading comics. Any comics. Indie or mainstream. Without new readers jumping on, the entire medium eventually dies off. There will be another spiritual sequel series to my FF videos, but it won't happen immediately. I also put out random essays on lesser discussed comics. The other series I've been covering is Mike Mignola's BPRD, so that's ongoing. Those come out whenever they're ready. Thanks, and welcome to those jumping onto the channel with the FF essays or any of the essays I've put out. As always, my work and the transcripts for all my essays are on my website, witsendpod.com. It ain't me if it's not on there. Accept no cheap knockoffs. Share these essays around. Thanks for checking out my work and this series. Chaos ensues.